It was a quiet Thursday night. The streets were almost empty. Streetlights glowed dimly on the road. Alicia drove her black car slowly through the small town. She had just finished a long day at work. Her face looked calm, but her mind was full of thoughts. Suddenly, blue and red lights flashed behind her. A loud police siren broke the silence. Alicia sighed and pulled over to the side of the road. She waited with her hands on the steering wheel, just like she had been trained. Pie. Driver's window was halfway down. A tall white police officer slowly walked up to her car. His name was Officer Kyle. He looked serious, even a little annoyed. "License and registration," he said. Alicia nodded calmly. She reached into her purse, pulled out her wallet, and handed over her driver's license. But with it, she also gave him something else, a small black badge. The badge said FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Officer Kyle stared at it. Then he smirked. Then he laughed. "Really? You? FBI?" he said loudly. "This is a good one. Did you print this at home?" Alicia's face didn't change. Her voice stayed calm. "That badge is real. You're making a mistake." Kyle shook his head. "I've seen fake IDs before, lady. You must think I'm stupid. Step out of the car." "I'm on federal duty," she said. "You need to call your superior before this gets worse." He laughed again. "What's worse is pretending to be an FBI agent. That's a crime." He pulled open the door and told her to put her hands behind her back. Alicia didn't resist. She knew the law. She knew her rights. But she also knew, if she pushed too hard now, it could end badly. She let him handcuff her and place her in the back of his police car. Inside the station, she sat quietly in a holding room. Another officer asked her, "Name?" "Alicia Brown, FBI, Washington Field Office." They both laughed at her again. But 5 minutes later, everything changed. A loud voice echoed from the police radio. "Dispatch to Station 5. Do not process that female suspect. Repeat, do not process her. Confirm FBI badge number 41921B. Stand by for command." Officer Kyle blinked. "What?" The chief of police came rushing down the hallway, panic on his face. "Where is she? Where's Agent Brown?" "In holding," Kyle replied, confused. "Let her out. Right now. That badge is real." "What? But she's FBI, Kyle. You just arrested a federal agent." Officer Kyle unlocked the door slowly. Alicia stepped out, looking calm as ever. He tried to speak. I thought..." She looked at him and said only 5 words. "You should have believed me." Then she walked past him, out of the station, into the night. Outside, Alicia sat in her car. She took a deep breath and made one call. "It happened again," she said softly into the phone. The voice on the other end replied, "Did they know who you are?" "Not until they heard the badge number." He laughed at me. There was a pause. "Don't let this shake you. We need you in place tomorrow. You still have a job to do." She looked out the window, her jaw tight. "I'll be ready." She ended the call and stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror. "Let them laugh," she whispered. "They won't laugh for long." The next morning, Alicia stood by her apartment window. The sun was just rising, but her mind was already busy. She hadn't slept much. The night's arrest was still fresh in her memory. The laugh, the handcuffs, the way Officer Kyle looked at her like she was a joke. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. The person on the other end answered quickly. "This is Director Hayes," the voice said. "It's Alicia," she replied. "I heard what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said softly. "It wasn't the first time." There was a pause on the line. "We need to be careful now. Your cover could be at risk. That officer you dealt with, he could become a problem." "I don't think he even knows who I am yet," Alicia replied. but I have a feeling he will soon. The director's voice became serious. You've worked hard to get here. Don't let this distraction stop the mission. I won't. Alicia had always been quiet, smart, and focused. She wasn't the type to scream for attention. She let her work speak, but behind her calm face was a strong fire. She had been through more than most people knew. As she got ready for the day, she thought back to where it all started. She was born in a rough neighborhood, where gunshots were more common than lullabies. Her mother raised her and her little brother alone. Her father had disappeared when she was young. Most people didn't expect much from her, not the teachers, not the neighbors. But one person did. Mrs. Thompson, her middle school teacher. You have a sharp mind, Mrs. Thompson once told her. You could do great things, Alicia. Don't let this world tell you who you are. Show them who you can be. Those words stayed with Alicia forever. Years later, Alicia had passed law school with top grades. She didn't stop there. She applied for the FBI, one of the toughest careers out there. Many laughed at her even then. You're too soft, they said. You're not what the FBI looks for. You won't survive training, but she did. And not only did she survive, she became one of the best undercover agents on the East Coast. Now, Alicia's mission was deep. She had been sent to this small town to investigate a secret network of corruption inside the local police force. Bribes, stolen evidence, even links to gang leaders. It was dangerous, and now one of those very officers, Kyle, had unknowingly arrested her. She looked at her reflection and said softly, "You messed with the wrong one." At the same time, Officer Kyle sat alone in his squad car. His hands were shaking just slightly. He was replaying the moment in his head again and again. She was... FBI, he whispered. His partner, Ben, leaned against the car window. Hey, man, you all right? Kyle nodded slowly. Yeah, I just can't believe it. I thought she was faking. Ben laughed. Wouldn't blame you. She didn't look like one. Kyle frowned. What does that even mean? He asked. Ben shrugged. Come on, black girl, young, driving a nice car. Not exactly your typical agent. Kyle didn't respond. Something about that sentence made him uncomfortable. What if he had made a mistake? A big one. Back in her car, Alicia opened her laptop. She reviewed files from her case. There were over 30 officers on the force. At least 10 were being watched by the FBI for illegal behavior. Officer Kyle's name hadn't been on the list before. But now, she added it. Not because she was sure he was corrupt, but because he had power, and he had shown he could abuse it. She would watch him closely. That afternoon, her phone rang again. It was the Washington field office. Agent Brown, you're new. Contact will meet you tonight. The operation is moving faster now. Understood, she said. Send me the location. She closed her eyes for a moment. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was personal. Alicia sat alone on a bench outside a quiet diner. It was late evening. The street was calm, and the lights inside the small restaurant glowed warmly behind her. But Alicia's mind was far away, back in a place she didn't often visit, back in her childhood, back in the streets. Alicia grew up in a neighborhood filled with sirens, broken dreams, and people who gave up before they even tried. Her mother, Vanessa, worked 2 jobs, cleaning homes during the day and waiting tables at night. She was strong, but always tired. Alicia's younger brother, Marcus, was full of energy and questions. He looked up to his big sister like she was a superhero. And in many ways, she was. She helped him with homework, protected him from bullies, and kept him away from trouble. But life wasn't easy. Some nights, there was no dinner. Some mornings, they walked to school with holes in their shoes. Alicia learned early on that the world didn't hand out kindness. It had to be earned, fought for. Still, she never gave up. One day in high school, something happened that changed her. She had stayed after class to help clean up. On her way out, she saw two police officers pushing a teenage boy against the school fence. The boy was crying. Alicia recognized him. His name was Jamal. He had just joined the debate club. She walked closer. "What did he do?" she asked, her voice shaking. One officer looked at her and said, "Go home, kid." "This isn't your business." "He didn't do anything," she replied. "I was with him 10 minutes ago." The officers didn't care. They kept yelling at the boy, accusing him of stealing a phone. Alicia couldn't forget the fear in Jamal's eyes, or the way they treated him like he was already guilty, just because of how he looked. That night, Alicia made a decision. She didn't just want to escape the system. She wanted to change it. Years passed. Alicia studied hard. She got into college on a scholarship. She took law classes. She kept her head down, worked part-time, and sent money back home. But even in college, she faced doubts. "You're too quiet," her professors said. "You need to be tougher to work in the field," others warned. And one even told her, "Maybe you should look into something easier." But Alicia didn't break. She only worked harder. After graduation, she applied to the FBI. The training was brutal, physically and mentally. But Alicia passed every test. She ran faster, shot straighter, and scored higher than most of her group. The last day of training, her instructor handed her the badge. He looked at her and said, "We didn't think you'd make it. You proved us all wrong." She didn't smile. She simply said, "I wasn't here to prove you wrong. I was here to prove me right." Now, years later, Alicia was one of the most trusted undercover agents on the East Coast. She had helped shut down drug rings, exposed dirty cops, and protected witnesses in dangerous cases. But this mission was different. This one was close to home. Small-town officers who used their power to hurt others, to silence the poor, to laugh at some. Alicia sat at her small apartment desk late into the night. The only light in the room came from her laptop screen. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard as she searched through files, names, and reports. This wasn't just a job anymore. This was a mission with a face, her own. She had already looked into Officer Kyle's past. His record showed no big red flags, no charges, nothing serious. But Alicia knew better. She had worked too many cases to believe clean paper meant clean hands. Dirty officers knew how to hide their tracks, so she started looking at the others. One name kept popping up. Sergeant Ray Dugan. He was Kyle's boss, older, respected, been on the force for over 20 years. But there was something strange about him. His name showed up in 3 unsolved reports, all involving missing evidence. One case involved a gang member who vanished after turning himself in. Another had a car crash with no drugs found, but the lab log said there were drugs inside. The third involved a sealed file that had gone missing. Alicia leaned back in her chair. "Too many accidents," she whispered. The next morning, Alicia drove to the town's small courthouse. She wore a simple black jacket, blue jeans, and dark sunglasses. She walked with confidence, but also calmness, like someone used to being ignored. And that's exactly what she wanted. She went inside and requested to see old public records. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with glasses, handed her a dusty box with yellow folders. Alicia sat in a quiet corner and began reading. After an hour, she found something strange, a witness report, filed by a teenage girl 5 years ago. The girl had said she saw a police officer take money from a man behind the gas station, but the report had been marked as false statement. The signature below? Sergeant Ray Dugan. Alicia took out her phone and snapped a photo of the page. Then she kept reading more files, more cover-ups, more silence, and in the middle of it all, Dugan's name again and again. Back at the police station, Kyle was sitting in his office tapping his pen on the table. He couldn't stop thinking about Alicia. He had looked her up online that morning, and what he found shocked him. FBI agent Alicia Brown, top of her class, a record of dangerous undercover work. Praised by Washington. His hands shook slightly. "I messed up," he muttered. He had laughed at her, handcuffed her. He had treated her like nothing, but she was far from nothing. She was everything he wished. He could be brave, respected, real. Just then, Sergeant Dugan walked in. "You all right, Kyle?" he asked. Kyle looked up. "Yeah, just thinking." Dugan smirked. "Don't think too much. That's how you get in trouble." Kyle didn't laugh. Instead, he asked, "Hey, do you know anything about Alicia Brown?" Dugan's smile faded just a bit. "Why?" "She's FBI." Dugan paused. "FBI?" He chuckled. "You serious?" "Yeah. I looked her up. I think she's here for something." Dugan's face stayed still for a moment. Then he said, "Let me give you some advice. Stay away from her. That kind of woman? She'll ruin your career in a heartbeat." Kyle nodded slowly. But inside, something felt wrong. Why did Dugan seem nervous? That night, Alicia met again with her contact from Washington in a quiet parking lot near the river. "I found links between Sergeant Dugan and at least 3 dirty cases," she said, handing over printed copies. The man read quickly. "This is strong," he said. "Enough to open a formal inquiry, but we'll need a witness, someone from inside." Alicia's eyes narrowed. "I might have one," she said. "Kyle?" She nodded. "He's unsure. I can feel it. He's stuck between fear and guilt." Her contact looked at her. "Can you flip him?" Alicia didn't answer right away. Then she said, "If I show him the truth, maybe." As she walked back to her car, Alicia felt something shift. The files she had found were just the beginning. Behind every report was a real story. People hurt, lives lost, justice ignored. She wasn't just here to take down a few bad cops. She was here to wake up the whole town, and it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. Kyle sat in his patrol car staring at the dashboard. His hands rested on the steering wheel, but he wasn't driving anywhere. He was thinking about her, Agent Alicia Brown. He had mocked her, handcuffed her, and laughed when she said she was FBI. But now he knew she wasn't bluffing. She was the real deal. And more than that, she was here for a reason. A serious reason. And somehow, he felt like he was a part of it. Kyle wasn't a bad cop. At least that's what he told himself. But over the years, he had looked the other way. Stayed quiet when things didn't feel right. When Sergeant Dugan told him to change a report or ignore a complaint, Kyle followed orders. He never asked why. He never pushed back. But now, after meeting Alicia, he couldn't ignore the voice in his head anymore. The voice that whispered, "You've seen the truth. Now do something." That evening, Kyle walked into a quiet coffee shop just outside town. Alicia was already there, sitting by the window, sipping tea. He sat down across from her. No badge, no uniform, just a tired man with too many secrets. Alicia looked at him, calm and steady. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. Kyle lowered his eyes. "I didn't think I would either." There was a long silence. Then Alicia spoke. "You want to tell me something?" He nodded slowly. I don't know where to start." "Start anywhere," she said gently. "I'll listen." Kyle took a deep breath. "There's something wrong in our department. I've seen it for years. Dugan, he controls everything. People respect him on the outside, but behind closed doors, he's different." "Different how?" Alicia asked. "He hides things, covers up cases, makes evidence disappear. And if anyone questions him, they get shut down, transferred, or worse." Alicia nodded. "I've seen the reports, but I need more." Kyle looked nervous. "I have a flash drive. It's not much, but I saved copies of some body cam footage, things that never made it into the system. I knew it was wrong, but I was scared. Alicia leaned forward. You still have it? Yes. I can give it to you. But if Dugan finds out, he won't, she said. I'll protect you. Kyle looked at her. Why are you doing this? He asked. You could have walked away after I arrested you, but you stayed. Alicia's voice was quiet but strong, because I grew up in a place where people like Dugan ruled, where justice was just a word, not a reality. I couldn't fight back then, but I can now, and I will. Kyle didn't say anything for a while. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll help. Later. That night, Kyle went home and dug through an old box in his closet. Hidden under old clothes was the flash drive. He had saved it a year ago, footage from a stop where Dugan had pulled over a young man, then deleted the clip from the system. But Kyle had backed it up. Now he handed it over to Alicia. She plugged it into her laptop. The screen showed Dugan yelling at the man, throwing his phone to the ground, and planting something in his car. Then turning to the camera and saying, "Delete this one." Alicia's jaw clenched. It was enough. Enough to start an investigation. Enough to bring him down, but they needed to move carefully. This is just the start, she told Kyle. We're going to need more proof, and maybe someone else who's willing to talk. Kyle nodded. I think I know someone. Officer Ramirez. She's been suspicious for a while. Alicia smiled slightly. Good. Let's bring her in. That night, Kyle sat in bed staring at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he felt both scared and hopeful. He had crossed a line, but maybe it was the right line, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to fix things. Meanwhile, Alicia sent the footage to her FBI contact with a short message. We have our first proof. One officer on our side. More to come. She looked out her apartment window at the small, sleeping town. They thought nothing ever changed here, but they were wrong. Change had already begun. The next few days were full of tension. Alicia and Kyle met secretly at different locations. Coffee shops, gas station lots, and once even in a church parking lot. Every time they kept their voices low and their eyes sharp. Trust was growing between them, but so was the risk. One mistake, and everything could fall apart. Kyle had spoken to Officer Ramirez. She was quiet at first, afraid to get involved. But when Kyle showed her the footage of Dugan planting evidence, her face changed. I always knew something was wrong, she whispered. But I never had proof. Now, she was ready to help. Alicia gave them both a clear plan. Set the trap. Catch Dugan red-handed. They didn't have to wait long. On a Wednesday afternoon, Dugan gave Kyle a special assignment. There's a man in town, Dugan said. Says he's a reporter, asking too many questions. I want you to scare him off. No rough stuff. Just a warning. Kyle nodded, pretending to obey. But inside, he knew what to do. He contacted Alicia immediately. This is it, he said. We use this to trap him. That evening, they prepared. Everything. Alicia called her FBI contact, who sent a hidden camera team. Officer Ramirez agreed to stay close and back Kyle up if things went wrong. They chose a small alley behind the diner where the meeting would happen. Alicia hid nearby in a car with a laptop, watching the camera feed. At 7:10 p.m., Dugan arrived, in his black SUV. Kyle was already there, standing near the reporter, an undercover FBI agent posing as a journalist. Dugan stepped out, his voice low and threatening. I don't know who you think you are, he said, but this town doesn't. Need your stories, the agent replied calmly. Just asking questions. Nothing wrong with that. Dugan stepped closer. Back off, or you'll regret it. Then he looked at Kyle. Make him understand. Kyle hesitated. This was the moment he chose, who he really was, and he didn't move. Instead, he said, "No." Dugan blinked. The courtroom was full. Reporters, officers, townspeople. Everyone had come. Whispers filled the room as the judge entered. But all eyes turned to one person, FBI agent Alicia Brown. She stood tall, wearing a dark suit, calm and strong. Today was the day everything would come out. The lies, the abuse, the truth. And sitting at the defendant's table was the man who once laughed at her, Sergeant Ray Dugan. He didn't look so confident anymore. Kyle sat in the back row. He wore plain clothes, not his uniform, but he held his head high. He wasn't hiding anymore. Next to him was Officer Ramirez, also off duty. They had chosen to stand with justice no matter the cost. The prosecutor stood up. "Your Honor, we will prove today that Sergeant Dugan used his power to silence, threaten, and harm innocent people. We have video, witnesses, and FBI reports. And we begin with Agent Brown's testimony." Alicia walked to the stand. She looked around, then began. "I arrived in this town on a tip that a high-ranking officer was abusing power, hiding crimes, and destroying evidence." She paused. "I expected resistance. I expected fear. I didn't expect to be arrested during a traffic stop, just for being a black woman with a badge." Gasps moved through the room. Dugan shifted in his seat. But I stayed, because the truth mattered more than my pride. She explained everything: how Kyle had arrested her, how he later came to her with evidence, how Ramirez joined them, how they set up the sting. She played the video. The room watched Dugan threaten, the undercover agent. Watched him tell Kyle to make him understand. Watched Kyle refuse. And finally, watched Alicia and her team move in. When the video ended, the room was silent. Not a sound. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. The prosecutor asked, "Agent Brown, what did you feel when you heard him mock your badge?" Alicia looked straight at Dugan. "I felt years of being doubted, years of being told I wasn't enough. But I also felt stronger, because I knew I was here to end this." Dugan's defense lawyer tried to fight back, tried to say the video was misunderstood, that Dugan was under stress. But it didn't work. One by one, witnesses came forward: a young man who had been falsely arrested, a woman who had her case ignored, and then Kyle. He stood on the witness stand, nervous but honest. "Let it happen for too long," he said. "But when I saw what Agent Brown stood for, I couldn't stay silent anymore." By the end of the day, the courtroom had changed. People no longer whispered. They listened to the truth, listened to the pain, listened to justice. The judge looked at Dugan. "You wore the badge to protect, but you used it to harm. You betrayed your duty. And today, this court finds you guilty." A loud gasp filled the room. Some people even clapped quietly. Dugan's face turned pale. He had walked into the courtroom with power. He left in handcuffs. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters rushed toward Alicia, but she didn't say much. Just one sentence: "Justice isn't easy, but it's always worth it." Later, in a small park near town, Kyle, Ramirez, and Alicia met one last time. The air was cool, the sky clear. "You leaving now?" Kyle asked. Alicia nodded. "My job here is done." "Thank you," Ramirez said. Alicia smiled softly. "You're welcome. But remember, this isn't just my win. It's yours too." Kyle looked at the sky. "I think the town will change now." "It already has," Alicia said, "because good people stood up." As she walked away, Kyle and Ramirez watched her go. No longer just the woman with the badge. She was the one who had faced their darkest secret and brought the truth into the light.